Alright, it's time for the solutions for the factoring out a monomial. So this one's basically a distribution property, but backwards. And this time you don't have just two terms to deal with, you got three. And so what you need to do on each of these is look at each of the terms and figure out what you can divide each of those terms by. So right here I'm looking at, we got, and what I recommend doing is starting with the numbers and then look at the variables and work from there. So I notice I have 5, 25, and 35. You're supposed to use your greatest common factor. In this case it's 5. 5 goes into each of those evenly, and that's the biggest number that goes into each of those evenly. So I'm going to put 5 out front. And then I'm going to look at the variables. I have p squared, p to the third, and p to the fourth. P squared is the smallest of those, and so that's what I can use here. And so p to the second is going to be what else I can pull out. And now that I've figured out what I've pulled out, you're going to fill out the rest of this with what's left after you divided each of them by 5p to the second. This one, the 5 got divided out, so that's gone. And then p to the fourth divided by p to the second is just p to the second. And then 25 divided by 5 is 5. And p to the third divided by p to the second is p. And the last guy, 35 divided by 5 is 7. And p to the second divided by p to the second is nothing, so, well, just 1. And so that leaves us with that, and there's your answer for number 1. Moving on to the next guy. Right here I'm looking at all these numbers, and I notice that 4 is actually the biggest common factor out of all the numbers, 24 and 28. And then looking at the x's, the smallest amount of x's that one of them has is 1, so I just pull out one of the x's. And now when I fill out the rest of this, I'm going to take each of these and divide by 4x, and that'll get me my new one. So if I take 24 and divide by 4, you'll get negative 6. Well, negative 24 divided by 4 gives you negative 6. And then x to the third divided by x is going to give me x squared. And the next guy is still going to be 6, because 24 divided by 4 is 6. And then x squared divided by x, it leaves me just x. And then I'm going to subtract 7, because 28 divided by 4 is 7. And then x divided by x gives me just 1. And so that's the end of that one. Moving on to the next guy here. It's looking like 2 is the biggest number that goes into all of those. And actually, the smallest amount of k's is right here, is none of them, so you can't pull out any k's. And then you just fill out what would be remaining. None of the k's got factored out. You're just going to take each of those numbers and divide by the 2. And we're going to get 3k squared plus 9. And that one's all factored out. Moving on to the next one. Each of these can be divided by 7, so 7 is going to be out front. And the smallest amount of x's available is just 1, and so that's all I can pull out. Take this and divide by 7x, and you'll get 3. Take this, divide by 7x, and you'll get just 1, but x to the fourth. And then 14x squared divided by 7 is going to give me plus 2 times x, because x squared divided by x is just x. Next one, number 5. Right here, there is actually no number that goes into all of those evenly. Well, 1, but that's kind of inconsequential. I guess I could put 1 out front, but that really doesn't do anything. So really that is as factored as it can be. Moving on to 6, right here, looking at all these, I notice that 8 goes into all of those. And the smallest amount of v's there is 5, so I'm going to pull out 8v to the fifth. And I'm going to take each one of these and divide by 8v to the fifth. That's going to give me negative 3v squared plus 10v and then plus 4v. Oh, sorry, just plus 4, because v to the fifth divided by v to the fifth is just 1. Okay, and there we go. So that's what's going on in each of these. You're just figuring out what you can divide all of them by, and then actually do that division and pull it out front of the parentheses. I noticed that 2 goes in all of these, and that's the biggest thing that goes into that one, aside from 7. And there are no a's in all of them, so I can't pull out any a's. I just gotta take all of them and divide by 2. So I get negative 3a to the fifth, plus 6a, and then plus 7. 7 seems to be a popular number on the end. Moving on to the next one. It's looking like 3 goes into all of those, and the smallest amount of n's is just the 1 there, so I'm going to pull out 3n. And I'm going to take all these and divide by 3n. You'll get 2n to the 6th. And then you'll have plus 8n squared. And then plus 1, because 3n divided by 3n is just 1. And that'll go there. Moving on to the next section, right here, it's looking like 4 goes into all of those. And the least amount of m's is just 1, so I'm going to have 4m. And you take each of those, divide by 4m, you'll get negative 9m squared, and then plus 4m, and then plus 10 for all of those, divide by 4m. Moving on to number 10, the biggest number that goes into all those is going to be 3. And the least amount of v's available is 0 v's. There's no v's in that one. Okay, so we can't pull any v's out. But 3 goes into 9 3 times, 3 goes into 15v squared 5 times, and goes into 12v cubed 4 times. And then 11, looking at all of these, it's looking like 8 goes into all of those, so I'm going to pull out 8. And the least amount of x's is 4, so x to the 4th is going to get pulled out. Take each of these and divide by 8x to the 4th. That's going to give me 4x to the 4th. You have to remember when you divide things with exponents, you have to subtract them. And you get 10x to the 3rd, and then subtract 3. Oh, actually, no x, just subtract 3 on the end there. Because we pulled out all those 4 of those x's. Moving on to 12, it's looking like 6 goes into all those, and m, just a single m is the least amount of m's available. It's going to leave us with negative 6, and then plus 10m, because m times m is like m squared, and then just subtract m squared, because m to the 3rd divided by m is just m squared. Moving on to 13. Oh, it's looking like only 3 is the biggest factor, because that's made by 3 times 7. So yeah, we had to go with that. And then the least amount of x's available is x squared. So that's going to be what we pull out. Take each of these, divide by 3x squared, and you'll get negative 10x to the 6th. And then subtract 2x, and then plus 7. And that's it. Moving on to the next one, the biggest number that goes on all this is going to have to be 7. And then the least amount of n's is available. The smallest power is going to be n to the 3rd. And you're going to take each of these, divide by 7n to the 3rd, you'll get 2n to the 3rd. And then plus 3n, and then plus 7. Okay, at this point, once you get to the factored out part, you should have at least one term that doesn't have the variable, because you had pulled that out of the variable out. Moving on to the next section. What are we at? We have to go up to 30 on this one. Okay. This one, it's looking like 5 is the biggest number that goes into all of those. And there's one n, that's at least one n in all of them. So you can take all of these, divide by 5n, you'll get 7, and then 7n, and then 5n squared. And that's all factored out. Moving on to the next one, the biggest number is going to have to be 5. And there are actually no, 0 x's, how many x's are available to pull out, and so we're just going to have to keep the amount of x's the same inside. We'll get 2x squared plus 3x, and then minus 7 on the end. Moving on to 17, it's looking like the biggest number we can factor out is 2, and 0 x's, so just factoring out a 2, and we'll get 1 plus 4x plus 4x squared. And there's that. Moving on to 18, the biggest number that goes on all those is going to have to be 4, and the least amount of x's available is x squared. That's n of all of them. What's the least amount of x's? And that's it. 36 divided by 4 is going to be negative 36 divided by 4 is giving me negative 9, and we already pulled the x squared, so we don't need to write the x part. 24 divided by 4 gives me 6. 4 divided by x squared is x squared. And then we'll have 4 divided by 4 is just 1. x to the fifth divided by x squared is going to be x to the third. And it gives me that guy. Next one, the biggest number that goes into all those is going to have to be 9. And then a single b, or b to the first power, is going to have to be the least amount of b's that we can pull out. All those divided by 9b is going to give me 10b squared, and then plus 10b, and then plus 9. Give me that one. This next guy is something like, actually 4 is not the biggest, it's going to be just 2, because this is 2 times 9. And so we get to pull out 2, and there are no x's that are in all of them, so we have to leave the x's inside. You'll get 9x squared plus 2x plus 2. And then down here, we can pull out 4, and the least amount of x's they all have is 2. And we just take each of those divided by 4x squared, which will give you x to the third plus 10x, and then minus just 1 there. And look at this guy. There is no biggest number that goes in all of them except for 1, but that's kind of inconsequential. And they all don't have n's, and so we can't factor out n with that. And so really it's as factored as it can be. Yeah, we're going to stop the video there.